From inside, I could hear unmistakable sounds of intimacy. My heart pounded as I crept closer and peeked through the crack in the door. Judging by the sounds that were coming through the door, I could hear that Tom was in there with a woman and that they were passionately having sex, but I was not prepared to see who the woman was. The very sight of her made my blood run cold. Tom was there, with Alicia. They were tangled together, completely unaware of my presence. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone and started recording. I honestly don't know why I had the impulse to do so, but I was grateful later that I did. They went at it for dozens of minutes, but it wasn't just what they were doing that horrified me. It was what they said afterward.
Babe, I wish I could marry you instead of Jesse. You're the one that I truly love.
We can't do anything until your father is gone. If it comes out that we have been having an affair, then we're screwed. The prenup I signed with your father means I'll lose everything if I cheat. He has to disappear first.
Disappear? Do you mean that he needs to die?
Yes. I just need to find a way to make it happen.
I'll do it. I'll get rid of him. I would do anything for you. And after I've married Jessie, you can take care of her for me. We'll take out a big life insurance policy on her first. It'll be perfect.
Hi, my name is Jessie, and this is the story of how my life almost fell apart because of a man named Tom. At first, I thought I'd met the perfect partner. Tom was charming, attentive, and seemed to have his life together. Everyone that we knew all said that we appeared to be the perfect pairing, but that was all just a complete lie. As I got to know him, I started to notice the cracks. Cracks that would eventually split wide open and reveal something horrifying. Things were great between Tom and I, in the beginning. He was sweet, always bringing me little surprises and making me feel special. He would bring me flowers all the time and for no reason, and say it was because he was thinking of me and wanted me to have something beautiful. But that changed when he introduced me to his father, Richard, and his stepmother, Alicia. From the moment I met Alicia, something felt off. Very off.
This is my Jessie. Dad, Alicia, isn't she great?
Alicia's eyes lingered on Tom a moment too long before she turned to me with a wide smile. To me, though, the smile appeared very fake. There was no real warmth to it.
Oh, she's lovely, Tom. Just lovely. It's a pleasure to meet you, Jessie.
Yeah. It's a pleasure to meet you as well. Her words seemed kind, but there was something in her tone that made my skin crawl. Throughout the evening, I noticed little things. The way Tom and Alicia sat a bit too close, how her hand would linger on his arm, and the way they exchanged glances that felt intimate. I told myself I was imagining things. But as time went on, those moments became harder to ignore. One weekend, we went to visit Richard and Alicia for dinner. It was a fantastic meal that Richard had prepared, and he took great delight in watching us eat and enjoy it. During dessert, Alicia spilled some wine on her dress.
Oh dear, I'm so clumsy sometimes. Tom, could you help me in the kitchen find something I can clean this out with?
I can help.
No need, dear. Tom knows where everything is.
Yeah, it's no trouble. It's okay, Jessie. I'll be back in a bit.
They disappeared into the kitchen, and while Richard and I made small talk, I couldn't help but notice the low murmur of their voices and the occasional burst of laughter. When they finally returned, Tom looked flustered, and Alicia was all smiles. It felt very odd, so later as we drove home, I brought it up. Do you think it's a little strange how close you and Alicia are?
No, not really. Come on, Jess. She's just a caring stepmom. She's always been very loving. I think it's because she's wanted me to see her as my mom and not just my stepmom. Don't overthink it.
I wanted to believe him, so I let it go. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. There was just something about the way they were around each other that felt weird. After some time, I just convinced myself that I was being paranoid and that nothing was going on. Once I did, our relationship really began to flourish. A few months later, Tom proposed. It was a beautiful moment, and for a while, I forgot about my unease. We set a wedding date and started planning. Or rather, I started planning. Every time I asked Tom for help, he'd have an excuse.
I'm working extra hours to pay for the wedding. You're so good at organizing this stuff. You've got it handled, right?
I guess so. But I could really use some help. At first, I was understanding. Weddings are expensive, and I appreciated his effort. But then I noticed something strange. Despite all his overtime, our bank account wasn't growing the way it should. I mean, he was easily putting in over 10 hours a week in overtime, and that extra money should have been visible in the joint account, but it wasn't. Suspicious, I decided to pay him a surprise visit at work one night. I don't know what I expected to find, but I needed to confirm that he was indeed working overtime, and not just playing hooky in order to get out of helping me with the wedding planning. When I pulled into the parking lot of his office, I immediately noticed something odd. His car was there, but the lot was otherwise empty except for one other vehicle. It looked familiar, but I couldn't place it. Quietly, I made my way inside and up to his office. As I approached the door, I froze. From inside, I could hear unmistakable sounds of intimacy. My heart pounded as I crept closer and peeked through the crack in the door. Judging by the sounds that were coming through the door, I could hear that Tom was in there with a woman and that they were passionately having sex, but I was not prepared to see who the woman was. The very sight of her made my blood run cold. Tom was there with Alicia. They were tangled together, completely unaware of my presence. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone and started recording. I honestly don't know why I had the impulse to do so, but I was grateful later that I did. They went at it for dozens of minutes, but it wasn't just what they were doing that horrified me. It was what they said afterward.
Babe, I wish I could marry you instead of Jesse. You're the one that I truly love.
We can't do anything until your father is gone. If it comes out that we have been having an affair, then we're screwed. The prenup I signed with your father means I'll lose everything if I cheat. He has to disappear first.
Disappear? Do you mean that he needs to die?
Yes. I just need to find a way to make it happen.
I'll do it. I'll get rid of him. I would do anything for you. And after I've married Jessie, you can take care of her for me. We'll take out a big life insurance policy on her first. It'll be perfect.
That's a wonderful idea. We can use the money from the inheritance from your father and the life insurance from that dumb bitch to restart our life. Soon, it'll just be us.
Terrified, I slipped away as quietly as I could and drove straight to Richard's house. When I showed him the video, his face crumpled with anger and heartbreak. I hated having to show him it, but I knew that he needed to see it.
My own son. How could he do this? How could they do this?
I don't know, but there is something seriously wrong with them. They are planning to kill us. We need to go to the police right now. Together, we went to the police. Thankfully, they took the threat seriously and launched an investigation. The next day, officers went to arrest Tom and Alicia, but the pair fled, leading police on a high-speed chase that was covered on all the local news stations. It ended in a horrific crash that left both of them in vegetative states. The police told us that if they woke up, that they would be arrested, but their hands were tied otherwise. At the hospital, the doctors gave Richard and I all the details about what was going on with Tom and Alicia. We were given a choice. On one hand, we could keep them on life support with the hope they'd recover, although there was no guarantee that they would ever wake up. Or we could pull the plug and let them go. Richard didn't hesitate. Staring daggers at Alicia, he coldly told them what he wanted.
Pull the plug on Alicia. She doesn't deserve another chance. Are you 100% sure about this, sir? Yes. As far as I'm concerned, she died when I found out she was sleeping with my son.
Then he turned to me. There was a lot of sympathy in his eyes.
I won't blame you for whatever you decide about Tom. Do what you need to do.
Are you sure?
Yes. It is a hard choice, but it is your choice to make.
I looked at Tom, the man I thought I'd spend my life with, but all I could see was betrayal. He had cheated on me, and even worse, he'd planned to kill me. How could I forgive that? Pull the plug. He made his choices. Now I'm making mine. Seconds later, both Tom and Alicia passed away. Part of me felt angry that their deaths were so peaceful. After the callous way they had planned to kill Richard and I wanted them to suffer, but having them pass away would have to be justice enough. It took years of therapy to process everything, but eventually I found peace. I learned to trust my instincts and promised myself I'd never ignore red flags again. Today, I'm with someone who treats me with kindness and respect, and I finally feel safe. If there's one thing I've learned, I tell my friends, it's to trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. As for Richard, I haven't heard from him since then. I can't imagine that he is in a good place mentally. After all, he did lose his son and wife on that day, and even though we felt justified with our choice, it doesn't make it completely easy to deal with. In the end, Tom and Alicia thought they could get away with their plans, but they got unlucky, and their horrific ideas were discovered, and they paid the ultimate price. And while I wouldn't wish what I went through on anyone, I'm grateful for the strength it gave me. Sometimes the worst experiences teach us the most important lessons. Thanks for watching.